He's never fought us. Not us united.
Oh! I can so see that. That's it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Comics League. I'm Jared, and today, as promised, I'm gonna try my luck at this. This is gonna be an open letter to James Gunn. Now, I highly doubt he's going to see this video, but you know what? You never know. So let me start off, Mr. Gunn. I want to say that I very much appreciate that finally we have someone in charge of DC that is a fan of the comic books, that clearly knows what they're talking about when it comes to comic book lore. I very much appreciate that. It's been a very long time since arguably we've never had this where the head of creative, where the top creative. I'm not talking about Zack because he wasn't exactly the top creative at DC, at Warner Brothers Films. So what I'm talking about is that the one in charge of DC Films, at least on the creative side, has been a die-hard comic fan. I very much appreciate that. Now, what I do want to at least try and sway you in a certain direction is that I think a fantastic way to at least... Okay, so here's what I want to say, sir. Part of the reason why the DC fandom was divided is because under the previous regime, they basically took all of Zack's movies and essentially downgraded them, denigrated them, or made the audience feel like if you like these movies, you were a lesser person, essentially. And to tell you the truth, on both sides of the aisle on this and on Twitter, this happens where, like, if you're where the accusation is, if you're a Snyder fan, you're not a real DC fan. If you're not a real DC fan, you're not a Snyder fan. So if you're not a Snyder fan, you're not a real DC fan. But I at least appreciate what you do say. Yes, there is a portion of the Snyder fandom that is toxic, but the vast majority of them are very nice. I do appreciate that because we haven't gotten that. What I'm saying is, what would be cool, I don't know if you already planned this, but is to actually extend the invitation when Zack's at least Netflix exclusivity deal is done. In other words, when you're legally allowed to. If you could extend the olive branch and publicly invite Zack back to direct, at least finish his films as an Elseworlds, because you already have established a framework for Elseworlds. What that would do, it would be a great way to actually, because one of the things that you have brought up in interviews and such that I really appreciate is that you said things are going to be different under this regime. Regime is not really the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. That things are going to be different under your and Peter's management. This would be a great way to show how things are different. You're making amends with certain DC creatives that have been, like, I won't say marginalized, but they have been, like, I'm going to say it, abused by the previous regime. So by inviting Zack back publicly, so no one can say you didn't do it, inviting him back and saying, hey, Zack, if you want to come back and complete your story, I'd be totally fine with that. At the very least, just like one movie, or you could divide it into a series on HBO Max, or Max as it's known now. But essentially, at the very least, you can have him truncate his story into essentially. Actually, it would work better as a miniseries. Allow him to finish his series, because number one, what you get for that, you get more DC content. That's important. Number two, at least on streaming, see, Snyder stuff, at least from an outsider's perspective, always does fantastic on streaming, because on streaming, you don't necessarily have to worry about, like, time. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to, like, say it can only be like 2 hours or people aren't going to sit through a movie theater to watch it. Because what you could do, you could either do two movies as, like, the parts like they did with the Snyder Cut, or you could just tell Zack, okay, I'll give you 2 seasons. I'll give you your movies as a mini series, 2 seasons. Season 1 is Justice League 2, and season 3 is season 1 is Justice League Part 2, and season 2 is Justice League Part 3. Essentially, with that, at the very least, that is the least that would give the best opening. That would give the best like transition, because that accomplishes a good many things. Number one, you have a proper like send off for these actors that have become beloved over the past, like I say, since the Snyder Cut is when all of them took their places. Like, no, we want these guys more, because essentially Justice League 3 just ends the universe. Essentially, it ends with a perfect end point. So I really, at least from my perspective, it seems like that would be the best way, because once you get to that point, like say at the end of Justice League 3, it ends. That's the perfect time to start up your universe. Well, actually, here's the thing. You don't have to worry about that, because it's an Elseworld story. So it's not going to affect your universe. You can tell the audience, hey, listen, this is not going to be, you can even put DC Elseworlds on the banner when like the DC Studios logo comes up. And the other thing about it is that it has been said that, well, you can't do that because that would interfere with his universe, or like it would conflict with it. But I will say, I do appreciate that you have established a framework for the Batman universe to continue on. What that says to me is that there's room for multiple DC universes. Plus, this is a fantastic way to compete with Marvel, because Marvel's kind of struggling with the multiverse, gang. And you could just say, okay, these 3 universes, mine, Matt Reeves, and Zack Snyder's, these are the 3. Essentially, if you like any of these things, there is a place for you. What this does is it engenders fans to your side. Now, granted, there are some that won't, that because it has your name on it, they won't like go anything near, because you'll be involved in it in some way. They would not go with it, in other words. But at the very least, the majority, as you have indicated, the normal fans, they will, I think, see that as, okay, at least he's giving us this. And essentially, okay, so we have the fans, plus also it establishes consumer confidence, general consumer confidence in the DC brand, because that's something that's very low right now because of everything that's happened the past 10 years. What this would allow is you're telling them, if DC Studios starts a storyline, we will finish it. Because if you finish the Snyderverse story, the Flash does not count, because that did not finish that story. If you actually say, no, we're going to conclude the story as intended, that essentially tells them, okay, that tells me as a consumer that if I pay for a ticket to like Superman Legacy or such, you are going to get to that ending. And that way I can say, okay, my stuff is going to matter. So that's where I'm going to leave the letter, Mr. Gunn. I appreciate everything you're doing for DC. And if you see this, great. If you don't, I don't care. This is just me like putting something out there, trying to encourage more positivity and more cooperation in the DC brand. Because yeah, it is divided between Snyder fans, non-Snyder fans, and it's not healthy for the brand. So I'm just trying to like extend an olive branch. If you don't follow, if you don't go, if you see this but decide not to, I can't do anything. I'm just telling you what would go a long way in building the fan base's trust back for the DC brand. Anyway, sincerely, Jared from Comics League. On that note, everyone, hope you guys at least enjoyed this or watched it. Drop in the comments, by the way, what if you support this, and what a continuation of the Snyderverse, how finishing the story would also be healthy for the DC brand in terms of what's coming out. Next in the channel, I'm reviewing Truth, Justice, and the American Way. And then next week, Under Two Capes is TBD. Obviously, CLD, I'm waiting until I get closer to the weekend so I can do the topics. And in terms of movie night, we are going to review Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. On that note, everyone, stay heroic, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.